o'clock, so I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. The chair notes there's a quorum present. Let's do the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, additions and revisions to the agenda. So 5.1, the drive-in promissory note and trust deed just got into us yesterday, and there's a couple of changes that Nathan and I need to discuss, and so I'm going to pull it for this time, and we'll bring it back the next meeting so that we've got it in shape. Any other additions or revisions?
No.
Okay. 3.0 is correspondence and public comment. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair, give your name and address, and limit comments to 3 minutes. Any public comments out there? None? Okay. And we don't have any correspondence, so we'll go right into the consent agenda.
Did you have any questions about the consent agenda? All right, I move we approve the consent agenda. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of February 5th regular meeting minutes and consider approval of letter opposing House Bill 4065. Is there further discussion? I will say on 4065 that this, for those in the audience who may not know, this has to do with basically the Justice Court's ability to suspend licenses for failure to pay fees. The legislature is trying to take that ability away from our municipal court. And it has passed the House. It's sitting in the Senate committee, actually, and the hearing is scheduled for tomorrow. So most likely I would submit this letter as part of our testimony to that committee.
Okay.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll skip down to new business, which is 6.1, the audit presentation, financial statement report from Barnett and Mora. Good morning.
Hello. I think you have these electronically.
We do.
It's always nice to have. Thank you. Yep.
My name is Cameron Anderson. I'm a shareholder with Barnett and Mora in Hermiston, and we were contracted last February, I think, to conduct the audit of the June 30th, 2019 financial statements for the county. So I'm here. We finished it up at the end of last month, and so I'm here just presenting it, and if anyone has any questions on it, I'd be happy to answer those. So I don't know if you want me to go through it. I can go through it really quick. Probably nobody wants to go
Whatever you
through
think
it.
are the high points.
Okay. So yeah. Jump to page 5. That's the independent auditor's report. This is basically our opinion on the financial statements, and really the main paragraph is at the top of page 6, where we state that in our opinion the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, each major fund, and all the aggregate remaining funds. So that's what we call an unmodified opinion, so a clean audit. So that's good. That's what we want. And how we get there is we send out confirmations of third parties, we look at transactions, we look at the underlying accounting records based that are in the trial balance, and then assist in preparing the financial statements. And then as you kind of flip through, we have management discussion analysis, which is management's what it is. It's basically a discussion that comes from management.
Who prepared that?
What's that?
Who prepared it?
Nathan did.
Nathan.
Thank you.
Yep. And then page 19 is the statement of net position for the county as of June 30, 2019, essentially the balance sheet. It's called the statement of net position in governmental accounting. Total assets were a little over 56 million. Total liabilities were about 6 million, and that includes the net pension liability, leaving a total net position of about 52 million. Oh, sorry, there's another deferred outflows of resources, which is about 1.4 million, and that's related to the pension. So total net position is about 52 million. 13 of that is fixed assets. So page 20 is the government-wide statement of activities or the profit and loss statement. The county for June 30, 2019 had a change in net position of $4 million. So the beginning net position was 48 million and went up to 52 million. And it's broken down by different functions and programs there. So any questions on those? The next several pages are the governmental funds. So the first 2 pages are kind of everything wrapped up into one financial statement. The next couple of pages are what we call the governmental funds statements, and those get broken down into the funds that the county uses to keep track of the resources and the expenses. So the governmental funds balance sheet, total fund balance at the end of June 3rd, 2019 was about 38 million. The reason it's different than the statement of net position is statement of net position includes fixed assets and other liabilities. So there's a conversion that we have to get from governmental funds, and that reconciliation is actually on page 22. So, and then, oh, so let me go back to page 21. The general fund, people are usually interested in the general fund. So the general fund at the end of June 30, 2019 had a total fund balance of about 6.4 million. And then page 23 is the income statement for the governmental funds. It's called the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. Fund balances at the end of the year were about 35 million, and that increased by about 4 million from the prior year. Just looking at the general fund increased by about 325,000. So, and then the next page is a reconciliation between the previous financial statements. And then the rest of the audit is kind of all the backup and details that go into those initial first financial statements. I'd be happy to answer questions about any of that, but I don't know if that's best serving your time. So I guess if anybody has any questions, I'd be able to answer those. Or if you want me to go over anything in the audit.
Any questions?
I do not.
This was your first year,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Where's Nathan?
He was on the phone, had a phone call at the
We
last.
can't even
second, so.
congratulate him on a good, clean audit.
I'll pass that along.
Please do.
Yeah, and I would,
Congratulate you as well.
I'd like to thank Nathan and the staff and the clerk and everybody. Everyone was great to work with, and when we requested items, they provided it. So yeah, we have no issues there. So that's what the letter that goes with the audit kind of goes through just a summary of the audit. It talks about any difficulties being performed in the audit, there were none. Any disagreements with management, there were none. So yeah, so overall.
How many days did you spend out here?
Oh, I think we came down for prelim testing for, I have to look at the exact dates. Prelim testing was maybe 2 days, and then we came back for full field work, which was a full week. So 5 days.
How much staff did you bring with you?
This year, myself, another CPA, and then 2 additional staff came down. So
questions for Cameron? I will say that I liked, because you're our new auditor, I like for those who maybe are curious about the numbers, the words, I'm more of a words person than a numbers person, so your notes in the back of here I thought were really helpful in how these are calculated, and so for people who are curious about how county government works, this is a good primer about how our budget actually operates, and I'm putting that out there on the record since we're on YouTube too. They can look that up. Any other questions?
I don't have any.
I don't know. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Yep.
All right. Next up is Waste Management's quarterly reports. Good morning. We can pass that back to her. Thank you.
I think everyone knows Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Bob is our district manager at Chem Waste Management. So the quarterly report, 2019 and full year for the full year, and 2020 quarter to date, which effectively is only January so far. But quarter to date, we're up 14% on volume at Columbia Ridge. So starting off the year strong, I can tell you the first couple of weeks of February have been quite good as well. Full year 2019 was actually the most volume that Columbia Ridge has ever received, 2.758 million tons, which was up 5.6% over 2018. So it was actually a really strong year at Columbia Ridge. Of course, the host fees, you can read that, for the full year, 4.2 million. And then chemical waste management, starting out this quarter, January, has been down in volume, but for the full year 2019, it was actually up 26%, so they actually had a really strong year at Chem Waste. And you can read the host fees paid for 2019 were $120,000. So site updates. Do we have any questions on the numbers so far? Site updates. I wanted to start with an update on the notice of violation, which I think everyone has probably read about and aware of, to try and help you understand what happened and what we're doing to make sure it doesn't happen again. ODEQ has issued a notice of violation to chemical waste management for accepting low-level, naturally occurring radioactive waste. This included filters, pipe scale, and debris from oil field operations. The regulations for this type of material are quite complex, and while they include certain exemptions, they do not allow for this type of material, the specific material that was received. Once we were made aware, we immediately stopped accepting the material, and we've instituted greater controls to make sure this doesn't happen again. From the analysis and review that we've done, there's no indication that the waste has created a risk to human health or to the environment. Beyond this, we're cooperating in full with the agency, ODEQ, and actually it's ODE.
Oregon Department of Energy.
Department of Energy. In full with the agency and committed to improving our processes to ensure consistency with the regulations. Our commitment is full compliance with the complex regulations and environmental protection that govern the industry. And I'm really not in a position to answer any questions at this time, but just wanted to bring that to your attention.
I just have one question that I think maybe you could answer, is why did Waste Management not get out in front of this before the Oregon Department of Energy put it out into the media?
I think we did.
Really?
I believe so.
I've never seen anything from Waste Management. My information all came either from the newspaper or the Oregon Department of Energy.
So I know we had met with the employees on site. I believe we had had a conversation with Judge Farrar. and we had a conversation with the Planning Commission Director, Michelle. So we did try to get out in front of it as we knew enough to say anything about it.
Are there plans to get it out to the public and have a town hall to answer questions? I know social media is saying all kinds of things that aren't necessarily accurate, so just...
We can certainly consider it. I don't know that there's a specific plan for it at this moment, but we can certainly consider it.
Go ahead.
So safety at the sites, no accidents through the quarter. We continue to seek positions, administration, welders, drivers, and laborers. We're approaching full staff, but as volumes increase, we continue looking as well. Construction projects in 2020 for Columbia Ridge, we're looking at a third leachate impoundment at the facility. And then we're also looking at a potential train bypass, which we submitted a permit for, but it would be a semi-private road on the facility to allow employees and some neighbors to cross when the trains are. So that permit's, I think, in your hands, sort of, or will be soon.
Probably a planning.
That's forthcoming. Chem waste projects, we submitted for the Part B renewal. It's been a couple of years now, but just wanted to make you aware that that renewal is out there. And then Class 3 permit modification, we actually are requesting a modification to the permit. We're preparing it for ODQ, and we briefed the county staff, Michelle and Judge Farrar, and we'll brief the Citizens Advisory Committee at the next advisory meeting. There will be a public hearing, which is set up by ODEQ, will be in attendance, and so to answer your question on that one specifically, yes, there will be a public hearing. And as always, we want to keep you informed and keep the communication lines open. And employee and community engagement, we continue to work with the team to educate and keep people informed.
Questions on the initial report?
No.
I guess my question would be if you're not in a position to answer questions at this time, when will I be able to ask my questions?
Yeah, so to that, I've been in touch with Oregon Department of Energy last week when I did meet with, Alan is correct, that I met with the folks at Waste Management about the notice of violation last Monday. So that's when I was officially briefed by them. And then I've been in touch with Ken Niles, who's one of the nuclear specialists over at Department of Energy. And so the latest, which just happened this morning actually before I came in, so this would be news to you guys as well, as Department of Energy has been talking with us about doing a public meeting to come brief the county court, and then to do a public meeting in Arlington so that the public has an opportunity to ask questions at Department of Energy about what this process looks like and what they can expect moving forward. And so Department of Energy just got back to us that they would be open to doing that, and we're looking at March 5th, I think, is the date, or 4th, whatever our next county court meeting would be. And so I just sent that over to Jackie Lang at Waste Management. So I have not heard back on whether that date works for them and whether they're able to participate, but that's the initial plan that we're working on, is to have sort of a forum here with the court where we can get our questions answered. There's been some concern from some of the adjacent counties with the way the material came through. I think they have some questions on how it came through and anything they need to know about the transport piece of that, and then also obviously allowing the public in both communities an opportunity to ask questions. So that's the initial tape. It's still kind of coming together in terms of when it would be and times and all that kind of stuff, but that's what we're talking about right now.
Which was initiated by the county and the Department of Energy.
That was
Not by Waste Management.
that was a request that I made to Department of Energy. Further
That's my
questions?
point.
Further questions? All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, we're on to 6.3, which is discuss request for the Airbase Road repairs from Mega Holding. Do you guys want to come up, or do you want me to?
Yeah. Come on.
Hello, good morning.
Morning. Where do we want to start? Back in '74?
So I've given the commissioners a little bit of background in their briefing packets. So they've got a general sense, I think, of the history of this, that this is like a 40-year ongoing.
42 years.
Yeah. So anyway, we may just want to jump to the end, actually, and then we can kind of, I don't know that we need to review the history unless the commissioners feel that that's
I
needed.
don't think it's necessary.
Okay. So you guys are looking for,
We're looking to get the roads repaved and the housing part of the base.
okay,
So, there's several cracks. We've done some upkeep with Dewey several years ago, filling in with crack seal and all that, but it's kind of deteriorated now. When we bought the place, Laura, prior at the time, made me all kinds of promises that they would take care of it, and then it just kind of, went on for, well, the last 15 years, so. We did have Dewey's help one time, and that was great, so. We'd love to get them up to snuff.
okay. And so, sort of as, I guess a little bit for folks that are in the audience, and just so that it's on the record, so that people kind of know what we're dealing with. So this all started back in, 1978. There was a resolution approving a subdivision plat for Baden Heights. And in it, there's basically a dedication of the roads to the public. And so there's been questions throughout the years about who owned the land and all that kind of stuff. And I think what we've settled on is that in order for a county road to become a county road, the county court has to accept it. And that has never occurred in those 42 years. So the statute actually has a definition called a local access road, which is what this appears to be doing, and I've talked about it, which is basically where the public is free to use it, but it's not actually publicly owned. And
The only question I have is in 1994, when Pat Wilkie was the DA here, his one excerpt in there was, it's been determined by District Attorney Pat Wilkie that in the case of subdivision development, the streets remain within the public domain and as such must be maintained by the county. We're not looking for that,
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be great, but we'd just like to get what was kind of promised to us.
yeah. Yeah, and I think, had the county court at that time adopted a resolution and said, yes, it's our court, then that would have been the case. And I don't know what the statute said back then when he made that determination. But based on the statute now, it's still technically a local access road. So that being said, if the court wanted to move forward with doing the work, I've put in sort of what those steps would look like. In order for us to spend county monies on a local access road, which is not our road, the roadmaster would first have to recommend that we make that expenditure. So we need Dewey's basically coming to us and saying, yes, I recommend that you do this. And then we would have to find that the public use of the road justifies the expenditure. And then we'd have to enact an order or resolution basically authorizing Dewey to do that work. So what we had...
There's 16 houses that are occupied out there right now. There's 9 more that we haven't remodeled, but all of them are full. So it is getting some traffic.
Yeah. So, and what, in your packet, Dewey had sort of sketched out what we thought the cost would look like. We've talked, and I don't know, Dewey, if you want on the record to kind of say where your position is, but generally we've talked about a willingness to do it so long as the money is not being taken out of the road funds. Basically, the county would need to, the court would need to transfer in money to cover this particular.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yes,
Am I getting there?
that, and it would also have to fit in with what our work plan would be for this summer. I can't just mold up and just do this small of a project. It has to combine with several other projects in order to come. So it'd either be this year or next year, whenever everything came together at the same time. Yeah.
So these are current?
These are
Yes, they
current.
are.
Dates on
Yeah.
these,
Yeah.
so I wasn't sure. So these are from, they're a little higher than 1978. You do see whose names on 1978, don't you? Leo Barnett and Lester Brooks.
Yeah, that's what I'm
What goes around comes around.
Do you have questions?
Well, yeah, it's, I guess we really need counsel to give us some guidance in what happens in the ifs, ands, or buts. If we do this, or if we do this, or if we do this, where does that lead us in our responsibilities?
So the way, if we were to decide to move forward, basically in the order or resolution that authorizes that work to be done, you can basically say this is a one-time deal in that. So that means that the county does the work, but then it's the owner's responsibility basically going forward for any follow-up maintenance to take care of that. So you're able to do that, or you're able to call it a continuing program. So, if you wanted to do a cost share down the road or something, you could look at that. I mean, we have flexibility in how you want to approach it, and I think the attorneys would tell us we need to decide whether this is something that we feel we want to expend county funds on, and if so, what parameters we want to place around that. And I think the attorneys can draft an order or resolution that fits those parameters.
Like, I asked Dewey, what would the maintenance be on it, how often?
The maintenance on it would be very minimal, because it's a complete removal of the existing system and going back in brand new with the type of paving that we're doing now with a chip seal over the top of it. So it should have a 20-plus year life, where it's really a controlled environment. There's no speeds. Probably the worst traffic areas would be the cul-de-sac at the end and the 2 entrances, but where the speeds are minimal, it should have a long life.
And then my other concern is, does this open us up to other personal property owners wanting us to come in and build it?
Right.
That's been the issue, I think, for 42 years. is
Yeah.
When you do this, you establish a precedent, and then how do you?
Well, I
And how many more
think what I would
access
do
roads
is
do we have out there?
any housing project that has more than, 15 houses or something, probably that you would consider with that.
My question is, how many other local access roads are out there? Is it just endless?
How many other local access roads are there?
We have none.
We don't have any other local access
No,
roads?
we have county roads. We have county roads in 5 classifications.
And then private drive?
And there's private drive, field access, stuff like that. We don't, that road out there, we do plow the snow on it, just because we have to go by and there's no other equipment available. It doesn't get plowed very first thing because it takes a special machine to go in there because of the tightness and stuff. So I have to wait till the machine that's done around Condon can make its way out there and do it. So that's really the only local access road that we do any maintenance on.
And we're talking about for next budget cycle, right, 2020, 2021? So
Yes, yes.
after
After July 1, yes.
So part of this too is that the budget committee would need to authorize the moving of funds. So it's not just something that we
Right.
would unilaterally say we can do it, because it would need to be budgeted for. So I don't know that necessarily, well, us saying yes, we can do it actually doesn't do it. Because the budget committee has got to vote to actually move the money into Dewey's account. So my hunch is that we will probably need to bring this back when the budget committee meets in April and actually get this. It may be helpful. I don't know if you guys want more time to think about it, or if there's certain questions that you have that we can track down information for.
Well, I'd like to ask some of my questions to, and there's some people I'd like to speak to, and then in preparation for taking it to the budget committee.
Okay.
Because I don't think it's ever gotten to a budget committee in 42 years.
No.
It's always died here. So
Yeah.
maybe that's our next step, is to see, what the budget committee, what they're doing.
How they feel about
Get
it.
another opinion as
Okay.
well.
Yeah, I do know, I can say for certainty that I would like to keep this as a local access road. I don't want this to become, particularly because our road committee right now, every time we meet with them, says to us, we have all this other maintenance and we need to devote resources to that. And so to me, expanding the footprint and the expectation for doing is crew beyond the current system that we have, I'm not sure that I would support that. I'm open to discussing sort of a one-time fix if Dewey's going to have to tell us that he recommends that expenditure though, because legally we're not able to do that without the roadmaster making that recommendation. So we'll have to actually follow the steps to make sure that that could happen. I'm open to it though.
Well, and housing is an issue, and so to me, that's part of this as well, is we're also looking at, there's 16 homes that are vital to
Several
our,
more that will
and you're still,
be remodeled in 20 years.
Yeah, we're getting ready to start up again.
good. To me, I have to take that into consideration as well. Are we helping a development where more housing is going to be available? So that's in my mind as well. So
Have you been up there?
I've not. I'd love to go.
Well, we'll be happy to pick you up and show you. Or just go drive through and see the road. All right.
Do you have questions, Leslie?
I guess, well, most of my questions were answered when I spoke with the roadmaster earlier. But I guess my concerns were how many more, if the county court was to authorize this, how many more requests would come forward? And then also, I was thinking that maybe the budget committee should weigh in if we are even thinking about going that route. The other thing I was wondering about is, what about just the removal of the road? Because I see that on that quote, just the street removal is like 7,000. I mean, can it just be returned to gravel?
No, not really, because then it fouls up the stormwater system, because it has curbs and gutters now, so that all the stormwater is collected and gone, where if we remove the road, then we would have to bring gravel back in and bring it up and compact it. So there would be additional cost to that removal if we're going to maintain it, leave it at gravel, and then gravel in there in that tight space would just be a pothole mess.
So would you recommend the expenditure?
Uh,
Sorry, not to put you on the spot or
As
anything.
as far as an economic development project for the area, just because of the housing, yes, I would.
Okay. So here's what I'm thinking. On the April 1st budget hearing is our first stab at it. And so Nathan usually takes the temperature of the budget committee that day on some of these sort of larger expenditures. I mean, this is 70,000, so it's not a huge amount, but enough that the budget committee would need to weigh in. And so
April 1st.
April 1st.
Well, it's been 42 years.
Lucky April 1st. But I'm thinking, so the first step is basically to have that authorization to even spend the money in that way, which the budget committee needs to provide. And then I'm thinking if they're on, obviously if they're on board, usually what happens is sometimes they authorize the money and then the county court actually has to take the action to decide whether to spend it or not. And I'm thinking that's what will happen here. So April 1st, we'll at least get it before the budget committee. If they're a no, then the answer's going to be no, because they're in charge of telling us whether we can transfer that money to the road department. If they're a yes, then we'll have to come to back to the county court and make a final decision.
Okay.
So, but it's on the record and it's moving forward. We'll have an answer,
Some
I
progress.
think, soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, too.
Thanks, Julie.
You bet.
All right, 6.4, consider approval of letter of engagement with Cable Houston LLP for energy-related legal services. So you may recall a couple of meetings ago, I asked whether the court was interested in having an energy-specific attorney. The purpose would be for them to go over our SIP agreements, make sure we are implementing those correctly, and then they would also be a resource if down the road we have new SIP agreements that we need to negotiate. So we actually have an energy attorney at the table that specializes in dealing with some of our developers. Cable Houston is a firm out of Portland. They specialize in energy and municipal law. They've sent a letter of engagement for our consideration. And then I just made a note in here that legal counsel, we are actually able to do a direct procurement with, so we do not have to solicit options. We're able to just pick who we would like to take our advice from. So my recommendation would be that we move forward. I'm sure you guys saw some of the back and forth with Brian Walsh at Avangrid regarding a potential solar development. And so there's been a question about whether the Montag SIP agreement covers that solar development. And so I would anticipate that would be the very first question we ask our attorneys to look at and double check whether that falls under the previous agreement. Because it does look like that's the direction Avangrid is moving. in their development plans. The other thing that I need to put on the record so that you guys are aware, several years ago, there was a lawsuit against the county having to do with a Marititle. It's long before we were on here. Cable Houston represented a Marititle in that, and so they disclosed that to us. I wanted to disclose that on the record so that everybody knows. Obviously, it was not related to energy issues or anything like that, but they wanted to remind us that they were the adversary in that court case. So I don't know if that gives anybody any pause. It didn't for me, but I wanted to put it on the record.
It has anything to do with this?
Yes.
If we went forward with them, are they going to be able to give us a nice summary on the, about in language that's easy to read and for us to continue to go back from year to year and be able to just...
That's my hope. Yeah, so the plan would be for them to meet with Chet and Nathan to talk. One of the questions that came up is just making sure that we're assessing the actual amounts that we're supposed to be assessing. So that is another thing that they're going to be double checking to make sure that
repowering.
That with repowering, all of that kind of stuff, that we're actually assessing the amount that needs to come in. And so my hope is that they will be able, I will continue to push them to speak in layman's terms so that we understand it and so that the public understands what the SIP agreements actually are and how they work.
And our contract is for specific, I mean, it's not a retainer, it's just for specific projects that we ask them to.
Just when
to
we
look
use
into.
them, basically. Okay.
I move to approve the letter of engagement with Cable Houston LLC for energy-related legal services.
And I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the letter of engagement with Cable Houston LLC for energy-related legal services. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, last one under new business is the award the bid for installation of the irrigation system at Burns Park. Is there any generals? If you could, that would be great. And while we're tracking down Daryl, I'll give sort of an overview. Which is the irrigation system at Burns Park is about 20 years old. And I see him dashing downstairs.
Well, I think he wanted for you to get these handouts.
Yeah. So just generally, the way it was set up, there's not full coverage at Burns Park. The water pressure is low. And I guess there's...
Now it goes like this. That's where the sprinklers are.
So there's a picture of a lot of dry spots,
Yes,
basically.
yes.
That's what Sherry's showing up here.
Yes. And, well, Daryl will tell us, but it's only a 2-inch line, and that's why the watering is so patchy. And that's a focal point when you drive into town.
Mm-hmm. It's one of the first things people see when they come in from Arlington. Come on up.
Then you hit it fast.
I know.
Oh, you should know that by now.
I had something for your packet that wasn't included originally, and
Perfect.
I already gave one to Sherry because we talked about it. Had one extra, then
Maybe for Teresa for the packet. So basically, I've just told them that our irrigation system is 20 years old, and that's been about it. So
Okay.
take it from there.
yeah. So we get funding every year through the RV fees, so we've been kind of adding up improvements. So we've been improving the pavilion, and then the sprinkler system project came up that the fairgrounds was also looking for a new sprinkler system. I thought it'd be a good time to address that. And so we got bids for that, and we got 2 responsive bidders, and then one that said we're way too far out. So I did pursue 3 bids, as you can see in the packet. And it was done before my time, so that's about at least 21 years old. And the aerial that I just showed you kind of shows a late spring. It didn't look too bad there, but after that point, can really see where it doesn't have the double coverage. So with the 2-inch pipe, we're just not able with the 6 stations to get the coverage we need. So I'd like you to look at the bids and hopefully make a recommendation on those.
With the 3 bids that you've included here, well, the one that couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a request. Does that meet our procurement requirements?
It is under 10,000 also.
Yeah, it is under 10.
I noticed it was right under 10.
Both of them,
Oh,
though.
that's good, yeah.
So yeah, it's an informal procurement, so we just need to get 3 bids. If it's over, with construction, if it's over 5 is when the informal procurement kicks in, and so that's why we have the 3 in here.
It sounds like the sheriff's department already okayed their side.
The sheriffs or the
Fairgrounds.
I'm sorry,
Fairgrounds.
fairgrounds. You're right.
You have to change your hat.
Yeah.
Right.
Not wearing-
Because they called me Friday for, to do the markings.
So the number that's in here, then that's without the 5%
That's correct.
deduction, so it'd actually be 5% less than here, but I would recommend that we do that up to that original bid amount, just in case
Right.
something pops up and there's an extra component that he missed that needs to be part of it. Questions for Daryl or?
He answered my questions earlier today, so.
Have you worked with FLI Landscape before?
I have not.
They did some work at the museum and they did good.
I heard they did a good job.
Yeah,
and,
they did Ty and Rose's yard, and, yeah, they've done a lot
So I've
of,
heard good things.
Mr. Shannon's
And he
yard
came out
across the
and
street from
He
the.
seemed to, you know, just talking to him and about his work, he seemed, I trust that he did a good job.
They're very reliable, and,
Do we have a motion?
oh, I could do that. I move to approve the bid received from FLI Landscape for the installation of an irrigation system at Burns Park in the amount of up to $9,369.32.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the bid received from FLI Landscape for the installation of an irrigation system at Burns Park in the amount of up to $9,369.32. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right,
You guys don't mess around.
when are they going to start, do you think?
He wants to start as soon as possible, but Gary's gone for 2 weeks, so I'm going to call him that he got the bid, and I'll be calling to get the landmark for him, electric and water stuff, and so probably March.
Great.
We'll get that open for a tumbleweed tournament anyway, so it'll work out good with us, so we'll have sprinkler system early this year. So he was thinking early as possible, so probably March.
As long as we have no snow, right?
Yeah, as long as winter doesn't hit.
The groundhog is right this year.
Awesome, thank you for putting that together,
Yes,
Daryl.
Daryl.
All right, move into court member reports. Leslie.
Oh, I've had 2 North Central Public Health District meetings since the last time we met. The first was a special meeting that was in the afternoon of our last county court meeting on February 5th, where we discussed the hiring process still
For
for
Terry.
our director, and also they wanted some guidance on the budget process.
Where'd you settle on the hiring process?
Well,
If you were going to do it in-house maybe, and then you thought maybe
I
one of
think
the counties
where
would.
we're at now is that a couple of the counties have said they would be willing to assist with, but then nobody wants to take it on. So we'll assist maybe with like going through, like, going through the applications and things like that. But I think Gloria, who's the office manager, I think she's going to make a stab at it.
Good.
See what she can do. They talked about advertising, they got a little bit of advertising out. Yeah, and so we're still working on that. And that was discussed at the second meeting as well, which was last Tuesday. One of the things that they did talk about, which they continue to talk about, is especially when we're talking about the budget process, is the they do not have a funding formula, and without a commitment on the funding formula from the counties, it doesn't work very well. So basically, from the board, they gave them the direction to go ahead and include the ads that they were hoping for, and see what happens. I also reminded Terry to please make an appointment with us.
See the budget committee.
Yes. Oh, yeah, we also talked just briefly about a plan B, what to do in the interim if we can't get somebody hired before. We were talking about all of that. Went on a road tour with Dewey on the 12th. Told me it was going to be a couple hours, and we were out there for I think almost 3. So I got to see a lot of the north end. There was going to be a road committee meeting that afternoon, and I of course had a dentist appointment, but it got canceled. So we didn't miss that. But he took me out to Rattlesnake. It was rebuilt, widened, straightened. 2.5 miles was re-rocked. He said the budget impact on that project was negligible. It was about $1,000, and that was just for the culverts. And then they're almost done there. He showed me the work that they did out on Baseline. He said they're moving the road to obtain a constant grade and improve visibility. So that looks good. 4 Mile, he says they're widening some curves before they do some paving. It's about 8 3/4 miles worth of road. And we discussed some of his paving plans in the future, like what projects he would like to see happen first. I was able to attend the Bank of Eastern Oregon's 75th celebration at the Arlington branch, and that was very nice. And they had taken a video clip that showed some history, and they had some cool stuff. They had this safe that was 100 years
We used to
old.
put money in that.
It was so cool.
Put money
Anyway,
in.
they pulled it out into the main lobby. We attended a chamber mixer for the Condon Chamber Mixer in Condon last Thursday. That was very good. Learned a lot about Google Apps and census and just and the goals of the Condon Chamber this year. So that was really good. And then also there's a Arlington. I guess my upcoming things, but will be an Arlington Chamber meeting next week, and I'm going with that.
Great. Sherry.
Well, last Thursday, I attended a Norcor special meeting. It was an executive session, and nothing had to come out of that. So it was mostly information from our attorneys. So we have a regular meeting tomorrow for Norcor. I will be attending. And last Thursday, I also went to the Condon Chamber event, and it was interesting. Enjoyed meeting other people, and out of that came the 4th of July Grand Marshal will be the Bank of Eastern Oregon in their 75th anniversary, and I think the theme is an old-fashioned 4th of July to kind of go along with that. So, shame on you, I do know. And this afternoon at 3 o'clock, the port is having a budget workshop, and I intend to participate in that. And I will be going to the Arlington Community Chamber of Commerce meeting next Tuesday night at 6:30 also. That's what's going on in my world.
Great. Well, most of my time has been spent on the notice of violation and fielding calls from other counties and the press and other people. So I don't have a lot to report. I am anticipating, obviously, the drive-in loan is going to come back. That should be hopefully done. The IGA with the Arlington Library, we have the draft back. So I'm hoping that will be ready for the next agenda. We have a couple other things that are sitting at legal counsel that I'm hoping will sort of start moving. So I don't have a lot of new stuff right now. We're just mostly tidying up some other decisions and trying to get this public meeting scheduled for Department of Energy to come out and see us. So in terms of announcements and next meeting, right now the 4th is when we're scheduled to meet next time. For now, there's a couple of things that we have sort of juggled in there. One is we had talked about going and seeing the school facilities while we're here. And so we may do a work session. We go up and do a walkthrough at the high school in Condon. So Michelle can talk about kind of where they are in their new project, current upgrades they're making, those kinds of things. We talked about doing the same in Arlington when we're there this second meeting in March. So Teresa and I are going to work with Michelle and see if we can get that on the calendar.
Do we want to do that on the floor that the DOE is coming up and we're going to have, we have it like, they'll be coming to our meeting and also doing a town hall meeting that day?
The town hall will be in Arlington, and the meeting will be with us. So
They're just gonna come tonight and give us a report.
that was my
I guess.
intention, yeah, is that we would, but what we may end up doing is moving our meeting till the afternoon so that they're not, so Department of
Oh, right.
Energy isn't sitting here all afternoon waiting for the evening town hall. So we may move ours to the afternoon, and then that way they can do ours, and then drive up to Arlington and do the Arlington event before they head back to Salem.
We would love to have a town hall in Condon about the same issue.
So,
If they want to come up in the morning, we would give them time in the afternoon.
so are you thinking they'd brief us and then do a town hall at both ends? Is
I
that
think
what
it would be a good idea to have it on the north. A lot of their workers are from here. A lot of,
We do have a lot of
it's been a big thing,
Apparently
concern
they
throughout the
their-
whole county.
employees.
So what?
But I don't know if that's even an option, but you know what, if they need to kill time, we'll find them a way to kill time. How about that?
So how about this? I will go back to Department of Energy and ask if they, so what this, I think what this would look like is we would do our morning meeting, same time as normal. I still would like to do the walkthrough of the school because I am confident that both schools are going to have capital projects as grants, and so it might be nice to actually see the buildings that we're being asked to upgrade. And then the afternoon, we can see if Department of Energy would be willing to do 2 town halls, one in Condon, probably mid-afternoon, and then one in Arlington after folks get off of work, so early evening.
Of course, you have to consider too, at Waste Management, if we're thinking about the Waste Management employees, that there are 2 shifts. So a town hall here might be best served at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon before they need to leave to go to work. And then those that get off then at whatever time they're getting off these days.
Yeah.
Could go to the evening.
So Department of Energy, that March 4th worked for them, but I have not heard back from Waste Management. So this is all contingent on Waste participating, because I think the public has questions they would like to ask directly of Waste Management, and so if they are not able to make themselves available, we may need to look at a different date. So I will get those confirmed as quickly as we can, and then have Teresa get that information out as quickly as we can once we have a confirmation of dates and times. Any other announcements?
Have we set a time for the road tour yet on the 11th?
I do not think we have. So I will have Teresa just double check with Dewey, but I think last time we started, what, 8:30? So I'm
Something
guessing
like that.
it'll be about that same time.
Okay.
So, any other announcements? All right, then I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. It's at 10:59.